All right, chapter 2 is complete. Chapter 2 is called Building a Compass, and this one was very interesting. I had four main things that really stuck out with me after reading the whole chapter and doing all the exercises along the way. So, first is basically the idea is now that we did the exercise of figuring out where we're at, next is we want to build a compass that will help us right now figure out what direction we want to go in, and also that we can continuously use to check in and make sure we're going in the right direction. So the first thing that stood out to me that I wrote down right away was you only have to create a compass for what life is about for you right now. So that immediately removed the stress for me about, well, does this make sense for me in 5 years, 10 years, All I needed to think about was, what am I thinking about right now? I'm building a compass for me today. So that was a good frame heading into the whole chapter. The second thing was just this really simple idea of a joy-filled life is a life that is coherent. And by coherent, they meant the questions or the answers to the questions of who are you, what do you believe, and what are you doing actually align, which sounds so simple and makes so much sense, but I've never really applied it to my life before. I have worked for the last 8 to 9 years in the technology industry as a product manager. And thinking about that, I look for incoherent plans all the time. So like a company has our high level goals, we have our goals for our product, and then so often then when you actually look at the roadmap, like what are we doing to achieve those goals, they don't align. And that I can spot so easily as a product manager. I am really good at asking the questions of, if these are our goals, why are we doing this and where did the disconnect come from? And I can help the team get to a place where we actually have a roadmap that's coherent with our vision. But I've never thought about applying that to my life before, and it makes so much sense that if what you're actually doing is disconnected with who you are and what you believe, then you're not going to have a joy-filled life. But yeah, that was kind of like a boom moment for me, and it makes the whole process that I think we're about to go through a little less daunting because it's more just like logical rather than some crazy process of trying to find a needle in a haystack. So that was really cool. Just a reminder of joy-filled life is as simple as a coherent life where who you are, what you believe in aligns with what you're doing. So the third takeaway was something I learned after going through the exercise. So basically in the chapter, you write out your work view, which is just what you believe about what work is and what work is for. And then you write out your life view, which is what you believe is the purpose of life, why we're here, and what's your purpose. And actually, hopefully you actually wrote it out. I just wrote it in a Google Doc. And I think the biggest thing I learned was, honestly, I have done exercises like these before. I spent a lot of time thinking about the purpose of life. So that part for me wasn't as hard. But one thing that came out, especially during the work view part, was money and what what role money plays a part in my work for me. And I realized that I feel a big sense of security when I'm able to proactively contribute to my savings. And I never really put that down on paper before. I always thought I was a little more like able to fly by the seat of my pants. But the reason that's important to me is because I do think I eventually want to start a family, and it makes me feel less stressed knowing that whenever that moment does come, because you can't necessarily plan when you meet your partner and all those things, when that moment does come, I will financially be able to do it. And I've never made that connection before, why actually contributing to a savings account makes me feel happier and why I think I need a certain salary for my job. And so having that realization was like a light bulb moment. And then the last thing, my fourth takeaway, was just realizing that even though for me, writing my work view and my life view wasn't too hard because I have spent so much time thinking about it and they really were coherent, I learned that my life view totally drives my work view. What I did realize was that while those were clear, I'm not actually applying those to what I'm doing. So my life isn't coherent because even though I have a clear view of my work and my life, I am not actually applying it, therefore, like I'm not applying it to my actual life design. So exactly what they said is what makes a joy-filled life is having who you are, what you believe in, connected to what you're doing. That's where my disconnect is, and that's why I have been feeling like something's missing. So I think over the last year or two, my views have been evolving, but then I didn't take the time to say, okay, these are my views. Does it connect with what I'm doing? And that's what drove this like underlying feeling of feeling like something is off without knowing what's off. So that's freaking awesome that I like see where the disconnect is now. And chapter 3 is called Wayfinding. So hopefully that will start to get me on the journey of then figuring out how to make it more coherent.